So in this video, you are going to hear all types of baby noises in the background. And we'll see how long I can last before he has a fit. Hello! I'm alive. It's been forever. Last time I made a video, it was before chaos. So that's fun. I hope everyone is doing well. Everyone's safe, healthy, and practicing social distancing because it's important. But this video is, you could probably hear my washer going also. I'm sorry. This video is for all the books I read in the month of March. And I actually read a decent amount. And really, it also includes February. But I didn't do a wrap up for February because I've literally read only one book. I went through a super bad slump, bad mental health in February, and then here's March, being March, and I did better. Yeah. Let's talk about all the books I've read. February, I guess I didn't finish any books. I thought I did, but I started a ton of them because I was part of a readathon, and I wanted to do all this stuff like for my birthday month and stuff, but then it just didn't pan out. So I didn't read. I mean, I read, but I didn't finish anything. So the first book I finished was Credence by Penelope Douglas, and I gave that 3 stars. It was interesting. I just think I'm just not into her stories. A lot of it's very incestuous, but not. At the same time, it's just, there was some rapey scenes in this book that were just, I don't know. I wasn't the biggest fan. But I love how she describes, this is weird, like the environment, the houses. They always sound beautiful and places I would want to go. Yeah, so I love that, which I normally don't care for in books, but in her books I love those. In Credence, it's about a girl, she's 17 and her parents kill themselves, so then she has to go live with her step uncle and his 2 boys. And yeah, there's all that stuff, sexual stuff in it, even though they're step siblings, or not step siblings, step family. She still refers to like her step uncle as uncle and her step cousins as cousins, and then she's doing stuff with them and they're doing stuff with her. It's just kind of cringy, but yeah, I wasn't super into it, and it was like the first book I finished in over a month, so that was kind of a womp womp, but it's all right. 3 stars. Next book I actually listened to on audiobook. It's Between Two Worlds, Lessons from the Other Side by Tyler Henry. It was awesome. I like Tyler Henry. I like his show. I don't know if I completely believe in all of the life after death type of thing. I don't know, but he communicates with the dead and he gives his perspective on what it is after we die and stuff like that, and I just thought it was interesting. It's a short audiobook, but I enjoyed it. And yeah, he talked about his abilities and how he got to that point to where he's now doing readings for celebrities and stuff like that. But I gave it 5 stars. I liked it. Okay, another book that I finished in the month of March is Every Heart a Doorway by Sean McGuire. I have been sleeping on this series. Everyone has said that they love this series, and it's great.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I gave it 5 stars. It's just about a bunch of kids at like kind of like a boarding school type thing, or like, I don't even know, like a rehab place almost, and they go to these worlds through these doorways, and then they come back, and a lot of them want to go back to where they were at. And there's mystery, kind of like a murder mystery going on, happening at the same time. keep calling it Academy every day, but it was really good. And yes, all these books were ebooks or audiobooks. Most of them been sleep training the baby, and yikes, can't read a physical book for the life of me when you're trying to hold a screaming baby. So a book that I finally finished, that I started, it seems like months ago, The Office, the untold story of the greatest sitcom of the 2000s in world history. 5 stars. Amazing. I loved it. It gives great behind the scenes facts about the show The Office. The Office is my absolute favorite show of all time. So reading it was amazing. And then while I was reading it, I discovered that I think it's called The Office Ladies. The 2 women who play Angela and Pam, they have their own podcast. So then they watch each episode of The Office, and then they talk about a specific episode per podcast episode, and they give their own little tidbits and stuff. And it's funny because this book is, I read like half of it when I started listening to podcasts, so when they were sharing their little factoids, I already knew about it because it's in this book. And it just, I don't know, I think it's like a good companion with the podcast, with the show. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. Another book I finished in March that I started in February is Queenie by Candace Carty Williams. I gave this 5 stars. It's just about a young woman who is on a break in a relationship with her boyfriend and just unknowingly suffered a miscarriage, and just it tackles topics of like miscarriage, grief, being promiscuous because you're just trying to figure things out, and then how society makes relationships with Black women like a fetish. Like, it's just super, it's icky, like how she's treated in this story or in this book. And just, the underlying racism and just so many issues. It's a good read. I know a few people that didn't like it, but it's a much deeper read than just surface level, like, oh, this is what this character is going through. There is so much, it's heavy. And I really enjoyed it. She had a lot of personal growth and just trying to rediscover herself and who she is as a person, as a Black woman. And like, yeah, in today's world, it's good. I liked it. So the next book, it was an e-arc that I got on NetGalley, and it's by Ross Matthews. Name Drop, the really good celebrity stories I usually only tell at happy hour. I gave it 5 stars. I love him. I love the stories he told. It was hilarious. He's hilarious. He gives little tidbits of meeting like different celebrities and like just his funny interactions with some people and some celebrities that he did not get along with or that just hated him. And I love that he is a Spice Girls fan, and just when he met Mel B, and I don't know, you have to read it. It's a super short book too, but he is just phenomenal, hilarious person, and highly recommend. So the next book I finished, I read it for Books and Lala's monthly book club. I think it's called the Literally Dead book club, but it's CJ Tudor's The Other People. I gave that 4 stars. I thought it was pretty good. It had, especially in the beginning hooked me, and it wasn't super predictable, and the themes in it were just different, and a lot goes on. Everyone's connected to everyone. But it starts out with a father on the highway, and he's driving home from work after a long day, and then in a car in front of him, he thinks he sees his daughter pop up from the back seat of an unknown vehicle, and then he's like, what the heck? So he follows the car, and the car's like trying to like lose him, and then he loses the car, and then he gets a call from the police that his wife and daughter were found dead at his house, and want to know where he was at and stuff like that. So it's like, how is my daughter on the highway but she's dead at home? And there's just so much going on. I watched the live show with Lala and Gabby, and it was funny because they forgot a lot of the little details and stuff about what happened, because it can be kind of confusing, which I can totally get because a lot goes on. But it was pretty good. I actually enjoyed it more than The Chalk Man by Tudor. But yeah, I thought it was pretty decent. It was one of the better thrillers I read in a long time. So another e-arc that I read from NetGalley, it's a short story actually, and it's called Pump by Levi Heaton III, and I was not a fan whatsoever. I don't even really want to talk about it that much. I gave it not the best rating, and it seems like I'm not the only one. It kind of, like, it was interesting in the beginning, but then it gets like, I could not follow what was happening whatsoever. It just seemed just not out there, but just, I can't even tell you. Like, I know in the beginning, like, there's a woman who goes into a gas station, and then she's like judging the person working there, and just the descriptions that the writer uses, I did not like. It was just insensitive and racist, and I get that's the character, but I was not about it whatsoever. It made me icky. And then it gets like into this weird horror sci-fi thing with animals or monsters, and it's just like, what's happening? So I wasn't too thrilled that I read that, but I did. It's on my NetGalley. So the next book I read that was also an e-arc on my NetGalley is Lisa Jules, The Family Upstairs. I gave that like a 3.5, I believe, 3.5, 4 stars. It was okay. It was interesting. You can't, like, each chapter is a different perspective, and you can't really rely on one of the characters' descriptions about what happened. Yeah, it's just about a young girl who inherits a house, and she was discovered in the house when she was an infant, and her parents killed themselves with another individual with them. And then when the police got there, they found her, and she went to an orphanage and was adopted. 25 years later, she gets a call that she's inherited this beautiful house. So then she goes there, and she's trying to just figure out her history because she really doesn't know a whole lot. But yeah, it was okay. I liked the ending. I don't know, the story itself was all right. It wasn't super thrilling. It kind of got repetitive after a while with certain things, with them, each character describing their perspective of what happened about certain things, and I totally get that, but I was just like, okay, let's move on with the story. But it was all right. It was in the middle of the road for me. So another e-arc from NetGalley I finished was Almost Just Friends by Jules Shalvis. I gave it, I think, a 3.54 stars. It's like middle of the road romance. It's total feel good story. It's about a woman who meets a guy, and there's like all these characters connecting. I'm trying to remember. I haven't read it in a while. The main character, she has a sister, and they live by like a lake or a river, or I think it's a lake. Yeah. And she has a sister and a brother. And then her neighbor, she kind of takes care of the old man that lives there, and his 2 sons would visit once in a while. So then she ends up meeting the eldest son, and then romance ensues. They both have, like, every character has some type of a flaw, like drug addiction, secret relationships, stuff like that. And it was interesting and somewhat realistic, but I was just like, it was okay. It was just middle of the road okay. A lot of character growth, which is good. In the very beginning, though, it reminded me so much of Get a Life, Chloe Brown, with certain scenes in it. Uh-oh, Beba's not happy. Okay, I had to put my baby in his bouncer because he was tired of being on his playmat. So you're probably gonna hear that now. Almost Just Friends. It was pretty good. It reminded me of Get a Life, Chloe Brown, because at one point she has like a to-do list, which is kind of similar to Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and then like a bucket list. And then at one point there's a cat up a tree, so then he goes up the tree to get the cat, and it was just eerily similar. I don't know what that's about, but it made me think of the other book of poetry that I completed, another e-arc from NetGalley, Break Your Glass Slippers by Amanda Lovelace. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. I love the Fairy Godmother's sections where she gives advice to Cinderella about boys and breaking up and relationships and loving yourself, and it was so good. Like, I was sending little snippets to my friends because I thought it was just so relevant to what they were going through at that time, and it gives great advice. So if you're going through something in a relationship, I recommend that book, and plus it's short, so might as well. So this book I was anticipating since last year. I loved her first book, so the second one I just had to read, and I luckily was approved in e-arc on NetGalley, and it comes out August 7th this year, and it is Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. I enjoyed it. It was different for sure. It's about a young girl who lives with her mother, and she doesn't know anything about her past, so she figures out who her grandmother is and where she lives, and then goes and stays with her for the summer, and then she uncovers this crazy family history of hers, and it's crazy. It's definitely, it has a little bit of gore in it. I don't think it's as gory as Wilder Girls, but it's definitely as weird. And I can't wait till it comes out to see what other people think, because I think there's a strong message, and I don't want to say what I think the message is because it might be considered a spoiler, and it is great to go in this book completely blind, not knowing what's happening, because the whole time I was reading, I was trying to figure out what was happening. I was totally like into the book, and I could not figure it out for anything. Like, none of it made any sense until you get to the end and it makes sense, but you're just like, the whole time, like, what just happened? But I gave it 4.5 stars. I didn't rate it as high because Wilder Girls, which is somewhere behind me, I gave that 5 stars because it was unique and different, and I never read anything like that before. And this is the same, I never read anything like this, but I enjoyed Wilder Girls more. But I recommend it to someone who likes mystery, thriller, a little bit of horror, domestic WTF-ness. It was great. Books in Lala's next book for their I think that's coming up, their live show for this book for Literally Dead is Platform 7. I wasn't a fan. I gave it like 3.5, I think, star rating. It's about, I don't even know how much I can say without spoiling anything. It's just about ghosts and the main character, she's obviously a ghost, and she's reliving her past or remembering her past, and you try to figure out how she passed away. And there's a lot of trigger warnings, abuse, and just suicide, just a bunch of ickiness. I'm curious to see what Lala and everyone else thinks of it. I was kind of disappointed, but because I thought it was going to go a different route, and it just, I was kind of bored with it. But Platform 7 by Lois Dottie. I'm awful with names. So the next book that I read it with two of my girlfriends. We have our little like book club thing that we do, and I like picked out a list of books that I'm interested in, and they picked this one, and it's Colleen Hoover's Regretting You. I believe this was also an I had an e-arc of this on NetGalley that I needed to catch up on, but I loved it. I thought it was pretty, like, it had a few of the twists that happened in it. It surprised me. I never read a Colleen Hoover book before, but I enjoyed this. It was like an episode of Maury or Jerry Springer, not as Jerry Springer, but definitely Maury. It's just, yeah, it was pretty good. It's about a mother and a daughter. It's dual perspective, each chapter, and what they go through. I don't really remember what is said in the description, so I don't want to say anything to spoil it, but it's pretty much their relationship and their family and what they are going through, as vague as that is. But it was super good. I enjoyed it a lot. The ending was kind of cheesy, I'll give it that, but it's kind of nice to read something just light. I mean, it wasn't really light. People, yeah. But it was light after reading Platform 7. So then the next book, which is also an I did a lot of e-arcs for NetGalley this past month. I am trying to catch up. Whew. This one is In the Dark by Laurent Ann White. I think that's how you say her name. I gave it, I think, 4 stars. Yeah, 4 stars. Murder mystery. Big time murder mystery. It's very Agatha Christie-esque, where there's a bunch of players involved and you're trying to figure out who's doing what, who's killing who, stuff like that. So you there's 8 people just in that conglomerate, and then there's 2 detectives. So there's a ton of characters. I had to write them down with a brief description next to them just to follow along, because I was so confused in the beginning. If there's more than 5 characters, I'm I would say even 4. I'm just what is going on? But this one, it takes place in the woods. Obviously, the characters are going to a retreat getaway place that they all are interested in working for. So each person has a different department or a different business that they want to offer to this, bless you, to this retreat place. So they all fly there, and then they discover it's not what they think, and people are slowly getting picked off and getting murdered, and you don't know who's doing what. And the thing I really enjoyed was you're going through the story of what they're experiencing, and then it'll cut to the next chapter. It'll cut to a detective where they are at that spot in the future, and they see the aftermath, the perspective of the people going through the stuff. They don't fully go into them experiencing it, but the aftermath of the detectives finding clues of what's happening, it made it super interesting. It was a good way to push the story along, and I enjoyed it. So the next book that I read with the 2 girls, my 2 friends, one of them picked that I've been wanting to read It's In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. I wasn't a huge fan. I was very disappointed because I was really looking forward to this book. I gave it, I think, like 3 stars. It's about a girl. She gets engaged to her boyfriend of like 2 years or something like that. And then she goes to bed that night, and then she wakes up and she is 5 years in the future. She's with a different man, different apartment, different ring. She doesn't know what's going on. So then when she goes back to sleep or something like that, she's back where she originally was, and she like obsesses over it until she gets to that point in like what happened. Really interesting, but it was also kind of confusing, and like parts of it I just was not a fan of. Just the ending felt rushed, and it was like, you'll have to read it. I don't want to give any spoilers or anything, but there were heartbreaking moments, of course. Yeah, I just was disappointed. So on another website that I read e-arcs from, Book Sirens, I got an e-arc of a book called Woman, a collection of short stories by V.P. Evans. It's pretty much what the title says. Each chapter starts with a letter from the word woman, and each chapter is just hard to read. It's about mutilation, rape, suicide, like things I am just like, it's so hard to read. And I saw some reviews that said like, oh, this is just super depressing, this is sad, blah, blah, why write this? And it's like, you have to write, exactly, sad books sometimes to get the word out that this stuff happens to women. It's real life. It is what it is, you know? Things happen. And I like that at the end she gives a glossary of like explaining different things like genitalia mutilation and rape and statistics and stuff like that. And it made it more than just stories, if that makes sense. I mean, I think it's a very important book. It was short, easy. I mean, it wasn't easy to read, but easy to read. I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, we are sleep training our 6-month-old. So I read, it's a short read too, Get Your Sleep On, a no-nonsense guide for busy moms who want to preserve attachment and sleep through the night, by Christine Lawler. I gave it 4 stars. It was really helpful. It's pretty much everything that you've read about sleep training, pretty much. The Ferber method, the Cry It Out method, stuff like that. But it's not super wordy, and she gives her experiences of what she's done and what's helped her. But she goes through all the methods, and it's like straight to the point. And it's not just long out, huge book for you're just looking for tips, and I recommend it over other books because I have quite a few baby books, especially on how to sleep train, and I wish I started out with this one because it was easier to read and understand. So those were the books I completed in March. I started a couple, and I've already finished for the month of April. Because in March I started Under His Rule by Clarissa Wilde and The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa K. Adams. I'll talk about those at the end of the month. Overall, I think I had a pretty good month. I really enjoyed most of the books I read. I gave a lot of 5 stars, a ton of 4 stars. There's only a handful that I just, not a handful, like 1 or 2 that I did not enjoy whatsoever. But I'm super happy with what I did, and I am happy to be able to be recording. I guess I can say I don't think I'm going to be making TBR, like a separate video for TBRs anymore, because I am such a mood reader, and if there's a book like I'm absolutely going to read, then I'll mention it at the end of like my wrap-ups. But especially in this climate right now, there's like no way. It seems like when I put a book on my TBR or my to-do list, my body does everything it can to rebel against it and not want to read it. It's so ridiculous. I'm like in high school again with my like required reading or something. I just don't want to read it. But this month I am reading Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. And I am trying to vlog my experience through it. I'm still in the very beginning, and yes, I have words. That is like my main goal, is to finish that book in the month of April at some point. It's 800 pages. It's a chunker, and I'm vlogging it. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, the rest of the stuff, I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it right now. Anyways, I should probably go and take care of baby. He's getting bored. Thanks for watching my video. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Again, I hope everyone is safe, healthy out there right now during this crazy time. I'm in Washington, so it's a nightmare. Again, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll be making some more videos more often. We'll see. Thanks.